Right, fine.
Stand by. Let me share the presentation as well, if I can. So how are you, and what's the temperature like in Karachi?
I'm in Islamabad.
You're in Islamabad.
It's pretty pleasant. We are now transcending from summer to autumn, and this temperature is very moderate here. Yeah.
And when I begin this presentation, and what I'll do, with your permission, I'm recording it. And would you like me to share this with my audience as well?
Oh yes.
On Facebook and YouTube?
Oh yes.
Okay.
You can do so. You can do so. Definitely, in light of this mind mapping, the session which you would do, I would effect an improvement in this, and it would be something new. After having heard you giving me your insight about this new idea, frankly speaking,
Sure.
I'm so excited.
Sure, thank you. Thank you. And just before we begin, I think it's just two of us. And if you can just give a brief outline of who you are, your past, your kind of what you do on disaster relief, etc. Then I can begin on my side.
Basically, I am a civil engineer. I joined Army in 1980, and in my Army career, I pursued my profession on engineering, instructional,
Right.
staff, and command appointments. And I went to different areas of Pakistan and different zone across the globe on different assignments. I had been in Kuwait in 1990 Iraq-Kuwait war. Then I had been in Sierra Leone on UN mission. This is as far as my career in the military is concerned. In different ranks, we go on different appointments in different areas, geographical settings. The very broad-based experience one picks up, being an engineer officer, being a military officer, and that too being an officer who would be going from mountains, plain areas, deserts, coastal areas, so huge experience and very wide spectrum on which one is employed in the course of one's service. As far as my education is concerned, as I said, that I did my civil engineering from National University of Science and Technology in 1989. And then I did my master's in security and defense studies from National Defense Universities. This was in 95, 96. Then I did my MS in disaster management. And from here, from 2010, when I became head of my college, from where I had graduated as a civil engineer, when I was heading that college, and that was Center of Excellence for Disaster Management, from where I picked a passion for this subject. And I brought this subject from Thailand, AIT, to NUST in my country, because this subject did not exist there. And I once had gone to a national conference, and I thought that this would be good. Then I pursued my PhD in peace and conflict studies. I worked on climate change and disaster management, MS, and I am working on my PhD on climate change again in peace and conflict studies, and now I'm working on climate proofing in this water treaty. While doing this, my academic pursuits, I kept moving professionally. And the last appointments in the rank of brigadier, which I had at national level, one was the Director General on reconstruction. I was taking care of earthquake-affected areas of 2005 in Kashmir and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Then, for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, I was a senior capacity building specialist at national level. The capacity building of disaster management, disaster risk management, disaster risk reduction was done by my institute. After having resigned from there in December 2019, I established my own organization, which is Integrated Resilience Network. This is a platform which shall be working in national security, in human security, in disaster risk reduction, and in climate change adaptation domains, particularly for addressing the vulnerabilities and building the capacities. And the means which I intend deploying would be through advocacy, through advisory, through consulting, training, and coaching roles. So with this sort of spectrum, I intend raising the resilience level of my country by addressing each component of the resilience, may that be ideological resilience, political resilience, social resilience, economic resilience, environmental resilience, cultural resilience, space resilience, cyber resilience, technological resilience, communication resilience, diplomatic resilience, any field you would think of, we would have to build its capacities and we would have to build its capabilities to withstand the odds in future and make our development sustainable, not only under SDGs, which have been laid down by global players. We shall have our own resilience level so that our generations have a very stable future. This is a brief resume I thought would suffice. Thank you very much, Abbasi Saab, for
thank you.
asking my question.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is something that is actually required not just for Pakistan, but around the world. Resilience, so resilience in different areas of our nations, our people, and ideology, politics even. Religion, different areas. But what I'm going to do, Salim Saab's here as well now, and I will give you a PowerPoint on something that we did here in the UK on resilience, and it's about self-resilience specifically. Let me just see if Salim Saab is ready. And
ये मुझे किसी ने तोहफे में दिए हैं दोस्त ने
जी Salim Saab, are you with us?
Salim Saab, can you hear us?
Yes, I am with you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Are you ready for the presentation?
Yes, I have the color pencil and white paper, and yes, I'm ready.
I was just thinking on how to joke with the Brigadier Saab and some of his colleagues. I said, make sure you get your coloring pens out and paper. So we're going to do some drawing. So what I'll do, I mean, I'll start, I think without the presentation first, I'll go through the presentation as well. Just give you some basics of the what mind mapping is first of all. The best way to describe mind mapping is it's a tool for the brain that captures our thinking that goes inside our heads. So mind mapping basically helps us to think, to collect knowledge, remember and generate ideas. It helps us become better thinkers, to think strategically and differently from other perspectives. So usually what mind mapping is, we have a central theme. Now the central theme that we're studying, I guess today, is resilience. But alongside that, we can draw a mind map maybe later on, and what we'll do is from resilience being the central theme, what we're going to do is we're going to have 6 domains of resilience from a personal point of view. But back to basics of mind mapping. So what we do is we usually have a blank piece of paper, A3 size or A4 size. We have the title of the subject, which here today would be Resilience and Sun Tzu, right in the middle. And then from that, we kind of gently branch out into associations. So associations, we're going to have the 6 points of personal resilience, self-resilience on the side. And we're going to try to grow the mind map, maybe first in our heads as we go through the presentation, and then do the then make the picture bigger. We will use keywords initially for the 6 domains. The thing is with mind mapping, we have to keep it very, very simple from the beginning, and as it grows, it becomes complicated for other people, but it's actually makes sense to us. So every mind map, even if we're in the same kind of group, we're studying the same thing, if we're drawing mind maps from our own points of view, it makes sense to us and it helps us remember, but it might look complicated to others unless we kind of brief them on what these areas of the mind maps are. So it's about, for example, I mean, if I were to say to you, I guess food. Food could be like we're going to have resilience today, but let's say food. Food is in the middle. So food could be linked to, for example, drink or physical kind of food like cake or parathas or something. Then that, for example, like drink, tea could be the food. Tea would be one of the strands. From tea, you could like say, for example, what goes into tea: milk, sugar, tea. Then you look at the tea and you look at where that tea comes from. Is it Assam tea? Is it Kenyan tea? Etc. Etc. So mind maps actually grow in that kind of that kind of way. For example, if it's your birthday, what we would say is it your birthday party? What day is your birthday? What gifts are you getting? What's your location? Where were you born? What were your ideas, etc., etc. So it just grows. The key thing to mind mapping is using color and lots of images, lots of drawings. When we were kids generally, and we had a pen and a piece of paper and we got bored, we used to doodle, we used to make a lot of little pictures. And this is using that kind of mindset, that kind of doodling mindset, not that we're bored, but it's because we want to be more creative with our lives. So for example, if it's a birthday we're thinking about, we could draw little balloons around the main domain, main title, mind mapping, and then we kind of branch out. But let's begin with the presentation. And Salim Saab and Brigadier, did you find that that brief on mind mapping okay for the time being?
Yes, wonderful. I'm with you.
Wonderful.
Me
Okay,
too. Me too.
so fantastic. Let us begin. Let us begin with the presentation. Let me see if I can find it. And right, the thing is, can you see the presentation on the 6 domains of self-resilience?
Yes, it's visible now.
Fantastic. Now, the thing is the 6 domains of self-resilience. So strengths in some domains can compensate for weaker domains, but weakness in one of the domains will drag down others. So for example, we might have strong points, we might have weak points. If we just keep looking at our strong points and keep developing them, we ignore the weak points. Over time, those weak points can become an issue that will drag down our other stronger points. And we will begin. Now, when we're talking about, sure.
Abbasi sir, can you put it on display mode? It
Sure.
would be easier for reading
Sure.
it and following it.
Of course, let me just do that right now. Let's see if I can just
Yes, bring the
into,
cursor down. I mean, bring the cursor down, just down from here. You just click that display mode.
sure. Well, let me just see if I can open the display mode. I'm just trying to kind of.
No. Please bring the cursor down right side, where there is where it there is a slider.
Yeah.
On left of it is the display mode.
Of course. Let me just see.
This one, yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
You see, when I'm actually doing this, most people don't tell me.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So basically, the six domains of self-resilience, what we're going to begin with. So basically, building a national resilience through, let me just go back into which one was the first one. So what was the different? And okay, now 6 domains of self-resilience. Yeah, this is what we're going to begin. Now, building a national resilience, okay, through individual empowerment. So what I believe, and a lot of people believe, is that when we empower individuals, it doesn't matter whether the people, young people, old people, whoever, it has like a domino effect right across the country. So resilience for the self is a lifelong journey for all of us. And our efforts improve not just our own quality of life individually, it also directly contributes to the achievement of a community and a nation. We all have the capacity to build and improve our vision, and the ones I've highlighted in yellow are the domains of self-resilience. So vision, self-composure, our reasoning ability, our health, our tenacity, our staying ability basically, and also our collaborative ability. And this helps us to develop our personal resilience. Okay. Now, the philosophy of Sun Tzu I will use to kind of put across my ideas, ones I use, and also mind maps. We can do that later on. Now, Sun Tzu and resilience. Sun Tzu was a Chinese general and strategist. He was born around 500 BC. Sun Tzu means master sun. Tzu means master. Authored The Art of War, or which is required reading for most senior military and intelligence people in the world. There is not one general, not one self-made millionaire or billionaire or successful CEO who has not read Sun Tzu.
I've also read it.
Sorry?
I've also read it.
Let me just see. I can just about hear you.
I have also read it, The Art of War.
Oh, wonderful. Have you read, which translation have you read? Have you read
English.
the Griff? Okay. Now, there's quite a few translations out there, and I would actually always kind of recommend reading different translations because
in military, in army, we all are made to read. We were made to appear in the exams to pass. Only then we were allowed to get into career ladder. And this was the book through which we were tested.
Wonderful. The first book I had was the Lionel Giles version of the Art of War, and that actually stayed with me for a few years. But then I got another book by Cleary, the Cleary translation, and now I've got probably about 15 different translations of the Art of War. There's so much beauty in this, but we will continue. So Sun Tzu says that you must ask which government has the right philosophy, which commander has the skill, which season and place has the advantage, which method of command works, in which group of forces lies strength, which officers and men have the training, which rewards and punishments make sense. This tells when you will win and when you will lose. Set beliefs about how people should be governed, particularly that democracy, for example, is the most evolved political system, fails to recognize that at a time of constricting resources, a centralized government, such as China, for example, might actually be the most appropriate system. I'm not promoting one system or another. This is how I see things in 2020. So since the 1990s, why Sun Tzu? Since the 1990s, the Chinese leadership, for example, has demonstrated a high level of strategic thinking. Application of principles found in Sun Tzu's work has greatly advanced China's strategic position far in excess of the leaders' initial expectations. So the West, I guess, is now just waking up to how powerful China has become. And other nations are effectively kickstarting their strategic thinking into a higher gear. So the lessons of Sun Tzu provide an excellent starting point for those who want to understand their place in this world and at the same time better understand Chinese strategic thinking. So mind mapping, how that relates, and developing inner resilience. Mind mapping is a visual thinking tool. As I said, it helps structure information for you to better analyze, comprehend, recall, and generate new ideas. This is resilience for the brain. The power of mind mapping lies in its simplicity. The mind map, as opposed to traditional note-taking or linear text, the information is structured in a way that resembles more closely basically how the brain works. So it's an activity that's both analytical and artistic. So it engages different sides of the brain and it develops strong memory skills. So this is just an example of a couple of mind maps that I looked online. For example, resilient willpower, how strategies are linked, how you can learn, how you can cultivate, what things are, etc. Another one is contingency planning and resilience. So, for example, business continuity. So, say, for example, there's I guess an earthquake. You look at how you're not going to initially look at your business continuity, basically how you can have disaster recovery, how you can have continuity of operations, occupant emergency, crisis communications, how you can connect with other people, etc. These are just example mind maps that are picked online. Let me just see if I can get the other one. So what are our mind maps used for? Basically note-taking, brainstorming, problem solving, study and memory, planning, researching and consolidating information from different sources, presenting this information, and the most important one is gaining insight on complex subjects and also creativity. I showed Salim Saab, for example, we did a workshop with some young people who were more into football. And we were chatting about creativity and we went down a bit of a kind of rabbit hole. One of the kids mentioned, for example, that they had an issue with a certain government. And I said, what would you do in an ideal situation? This, I would overthrow the government. And so we did a mind map on having not that I'm encouraging anything like this, but of having a military coup. And they put together all these kind of ideas on the mind map. And at the end of the session, all of them, they said that having a successful coup, is actually more problematic in the long run. So they would stick with the current government, the ideas they had. So it kind of shows creativity. It also helps people think, individuals think on how links can take place, what would their results will be. So how to draw a mind map? We start in the middle of a blank page, for example, and we draw out. We develop the related subtopics around this central topic. So we're going to be talking about resilience, and we connect each of them to the center with a line, and we repeat the same process for the subtopics. So we will have different subtopics around that. We use colors, we use drawings, we use symbols freely. We be as visual as possible. We keep the topic labels as short as possible, ideally just one word or a picture, and then we kind of build it that way. So back to resilience. So resilience from our vision or from your vision. So this is the most important of the domains. Clarity helps us to keep us focused. Congruence is the name of the game. So vision is about our sense of purpose, our goals, our personal vision, etc. Also, if you now look at a nation, what is a nation's purpose? What is a nation's goals? What is a nation's vision for itself? Where does a nation want to be? So when you look at something, a country like Pakistan, the this resilience of vision was there from the founder of Pakistan, like Qadi Azam. The resilience of vision has been there, and I think it's still there within a lot of senior military leaders of Pakistan. They were clear of where the country was going. They were focused. They were not distracted by unimportant details. They were not interested, for example, in making themselves look good. Rather, they were interested in making the country look good. So all of their actions were working together for the benefit of the country, which was Pakistan. And this is why in the 1960s, Pakistan was actually faster growing than even what is now South Korea. So Sun Tzu said, create your own future. So you see the opportunity for victory, you don't create it. Okay, so we don't create opportunities, we see opportunities through Sun Tzu. This is what Sun Tzu teaches. This concept actually runs counter to Western ways of thinking, which view that opportunities can be manufactured by force of will, something that Nietzsche used to believe in, Friedrich Nietzsche. And also, my own personal view is you can actually create victory through force of will, but also, more important, you need to look for the opportunities of victory by doing minimal, by showing minimal effort and putting that effort in other things. So for example, what the Chinese did over the past few decades, and to an extent the Indians, they've increased on their education systems. That was resilience for the masses. And they kind of prepared their country to where their country is now. For example, China is in a very, very strong position. So if you look at the Chinese ability to kind of take on economically other countries, it's second to none. Even the United States, still to an extent the most powerful country in the world, it doesn't really know of how to tackle China, not militarily, but in a way which is economical, and also through different diplomatic ways. Diplomacy is another feature of a resilient nation. So resilience from composure. So, for example, regulating emotions, looking at the little things, when we interpret certain things, when we're being proactive. This is all about composure. So regulating emotions, the fight or flight response of the brain flares up when we're facing a conflict. When an individual is emotional or takes an emotional kind of response to something, they are easier to control. They are not as valuable to a nation as a person who thinks logically, thinks strategically, because as, for example, the military, if you're looking at the military, not just of Pakistan, of other countries, they're not emotional. They're generally logical people. And they know how to regulate their emotions. So regulating emotions, for example, I personally use meditation, I use prayer, I use mind mapping, I use other things to regulate my own emotions, to handle things. Now, little things, for example, little things, if they're not handled early on, over time they become bigger things. So for example, I might dislike someone within either my family or friends, or they dislike something about them, but they keep doing that, and it keeps growing in my brain. If I do not kind of address that within myself, those little things, it will become problematic for me over time. The other person doesn't really matter. So this again comes into the interpretation basis. So say, for example, you might have, you're the boss of Salim Saab, Brigadier. So you might say to Salim Saab that I need to talk to you, come see me later. Now, Salim Saab might panic. He goes, what have I done? Am I going to get into trouble or something? Yeah. So the interpretation Salim Saab has in his mind is like negative, not just Salim Saab, but a lot of people in businesses or in certain positions in their workplace. They feel very kind of kind of detached from what is reality. So we interpret things in our brains in different ways. So if we become proactive, it's better. So, for example, when we're looking at our own beliefs and expectations that produce emotions in the first place, we can then start handling those. So if we look at, for example, in I think it was around 2011 or 2012, this isn't a kind of I'm not having a go at any government, but the thing is, there was a film made of about 5 or 10 minutes long by some American person in their bedroom or something, and they said something against the Prophet, and they put that on YouTube. Just that one person. There was a lot of emotional response to that movie. That it was a disgusting movie, but there was a lot of emotional response in Pakistan. The government of Pakistan decided to ban YouTube, I think, for a period of some months. The government of Pakistan at that time did not know there was people like myself and other friends of mine who were on YouTube, and we were planning a response to that one individual in Pakistan of promoting the Prophet and the Prophet's views, etc., positively across the world. And the location of our base was in Pakistan, in Lahore. And when the government of Pakistan banned YouTube, that kind of stopped us responding against the person who was problematic in California. And what happened is, obviously, that YouTube went all over the place, kind of a bit viral, and it stopped us from defending our Prophet, because the government of Pakistan looked on the people getting emotional, and they thought that they'll have to kind of respond to that. So composure is very, very important in a people and individuals, and this is something that we need to also promote from a resilience perspective. So Sun Tzu says, know who and where you are. So when a fighter fights, or when a general fights, you must know the battleground. You must know the time of battle. You can then travel 1,000 miles and still win the battle. This is what Art of War says. So awareness and understanding are very important to be able to act effectively. We must have knowledge of where we find ourselves. So here in 2020, we need to understand where we are, who the people around us are. So it's like a military general who really cares for his troops or her troops and seeks to avoid putting their own troops in harm's way. One of the things that people who are not from the military point of view and might have different ideas of what the military is, a military general or a military officer, an effective one, always cares about his or her troops, and they do seek avoiding putting their troops in harm's way for their own purposes. So not just in military people, but as politicians, etc., we need to start caring for the people who are under our command. There are extended families, for example. The world is evolving in so many new directions, and we need to identify in advance those points at which potentially conflict might happen in the future, and we need to be prepared. But first of all, we have to find ways of increasing resilience in people. And one of the ways of increasing resilience is, as I said, mind mapping. It also helps with creative problem solving. Now, to solve problems, we have to keep our composure. We have to keep our cool. We have to have that vision inside of us. We need to anticipate and plan. So like composure, it's not just about applying critical thinking during a crisis, but it's also about taking action ahead of time to prevent things from going wrong in the first place. This is proactive action. We also need to be resourceful. We need to have the right kind of information, the tools, techniques, and the people available to help us solve these problems. So, for example, in your country, in Pakistan, we need to have more think tanks. We need to have more people thinking from other people's perspectives, um, and understand at times what they are thinking. Are they doing something that is beneficial to our country in the long run, or are they doing something that is not beneficial to our country in the long run? If it's not beneficial to our country in the long run, how can we handle that? So we need to be resourceful at identifying problematic areas. Now, within regardless if people are good to you or bad to you, whether as individuals or as countries or as businesses, I guess, there's always opportunities in change. There's always opportunities there. And a high reasoning ability, the ability to think from others' perspectives, the ability to think mathematically, logically in an environment that is changing, has hidden opportunities. And maintaining composure and knowing what we want to achieve, knowing that vision, change then does not become a threat for us. And we can look for things that others may have missed and help us succeed in the long run in our country. So Sun Tzu says, know the enemy and know yourself. Your victory will be painless. Know the weather on the field. Your victory will be complete. Now, the key to remaining strong in today's world is to realistically look at this. And this is about self-knowledge. The worst enemy, actually, we all have. Worst enemy, the absolute 100% worst enemy than anything else is our own minds. And if our own minds are unbalanced, others can take advantage of them. And we need to be also mindful that people, a lot of people, they look for enemies outside of themselves. And even if they are their opponents, the worst enemy you have is within you. And it's about you. If you have an uncontrolled emotion, if you respond because someone else wants you to respond, and you don't fully know what their ideas might be of you, you will actually defeat your own self before you actually engage in a battle with someone else if you do not know yourself. So tenacity, resilience from tenacity. So Einstein said, it's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. So in a globalized world, success is not guaranteed. We must be willing to work hard, but we also must be willing to be smart and stay with problems. We can't just, if we have problems, a lot of kids, for example, we might say to them, if you can't do it, leave it, do something else. But one of the key things is when we were toddlers, when we were babies, learning to walk, and every time we got up, when we fell down, we got up and we fell down, our parents kept encouraging us. Our brothers and sisters kept encouraging us. They did not say after first, second, or third try, don't learn to walk, you're going to hurt yourself, etc., etc. They encouraged us. We also, to increase resilience, not just within ourselves, but the people around us, we need to encourage people. We need to encourage them, and we need to trust them. They will make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But through mistakes, the more mistakes you make, the more ability you will have to make the right decisions over time. So we learn from our mistakes. The past of a country or a people or of an individual is there to learn from, not to dwell on. So we need to have realistic optimism. Those who are pessimistic or too optimistic about succeeding are generally less likely to succeed, okay? Since they tend to give up at the first sign of pain. So it's important to have a realistic optimism, meaning that you are hopeful about your ability to succeed and realize that your road is tough and full of challenges, fine, This realization, combined with the willingness to be persistent, leads to success for individuals, to families, teams, organizations, and nations. So if you look back at China, they had realistic optimism. Um, they knew where they were going, and they continued on that. They actually got more successful than they expected. And this is why a lot of other countries are now more worried about the success of China. But they need to understand there's China has the ability to work with you, and it wants to work with you. So, for example, here in the United Kingdom, one of the things that I teach is China is not an enemy of the future of Britain or any country. China has the potential to teach you how to do business, but also to they want to trade with you. They want to help you in various other ways. There's people from China, for example. I think we're getting about 100,000 students from China every year who are studying here in the UK, and they go back and they keep developing their nation. By the way, any questions so far, Brigadier or Salim Saab?
No, it's okay. No, I think we can.
Abbasi Sahab,
Sure.
Abbasi Sahab, one thing which you mentioned,
Yeah.
that Chinese, they excelled in a vacuum. And Americans, their power was declining.
Okay.
If you recall, Richard Nixon wrote a book, Seizing the Moment, Seizing the Fleeting Moment.
Right.
That seizing the fleeting moment was the concept which was very proactive concept, which was very agile, very vigilant concept. So you think from that pedestal, Americans came down, that was the concept in 60s, 70s. They came down from that pedestal and that created the vacuum which was occupied by Chinese. You mean this?
The thing is, I think with China, it was during Nixon's time where I think Pakistanis opened the door for the Americans, with Nixon's government, to reach out to China, and there's a lot of good feeling within Chinese for Pakistanis for opening that door. Where the Americans started going down was the idea of fear. Fear of something that is different, and they saw the Chinese as different. But at Nixon's time, when they kind of reached out, they reached out because they were having issues with the Russians. But over time, what America did not do is develop people-to-people relations with the Chinese. That was very important. The people-to-people relations with the Chinese, I don't think have even developed so much even now with the Chinese. It's more so with governmental relations. And when governments just talk to each other, not people, they become there's less kind of self-assurance within their own country. So where the United States started going, I'm not saying weaker, I think China has grown stronger, and the United States have kind of like it's almost like the tortoise and the hare. So the tortoise that is slower and the hare that is fast. So America was like the hare, going fast, and America kind of has kind of rested too much on its own development, and the Chinese have slowly moved further. And with the Americans, they still have, I think they will still be a superpower until about 2030, 2040. They have the opportunity to remain as a superpower, one of the top countries in the world, but they have to learn, I guess, from the Chinese way of doing things economically, and also in their relations with other countries. So one of the things where America has declined is, President Trump talks about America declining from a military angle. America hasn't declined from a military angle, it's declined from a leadership angle. Because the military in America went in, 1992, 91, I think it was about 220 billion the American budget for the armed forces was. This was just after the Soviet Union kind of broke apart. Today, the budget is nearing 800 billion in the United States. So the budget for the military is absolutely huge. A lot of the money that, for example, the American government has, it's spent on the military, then it's spent on the intelligence services, et cetera, et cetera. Less money is spent on infrastructure within the United States. So if you go to one of the even top cities like New York, Washington, Detroit, Houston, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, you look at the roads, generally, they're breaking. There's not that much investment within infrastructure in the United States. In China, there's a lot of investment in the roads, in infrastructure, in education, especially. The United States education system, for example, has gone down to an extent. They're not really as proactive as they were in the past. So you look at, for example, Chinese or Indians or other people from other countries going into the United States to kind of be educated. They end up usually in their top universities, top colleges, top businesses. That's simply because America hasn't really spent time nurturing leadership, nurturing intelligence within their own people. They had to just import them in. So this is where this comes in. For example, adapting and learning from others. This is what Sun Tzu says. So be creative in your planning. So the Chinese were creative in their planning in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. America was creative in its planning in the 30s and the 40s, in the 50s even. But that has kind of gone down. So you must adapt to your opportunities and weaknesses. We can use a variety of approaches and we have a consistent result. This is what the art of war says. So China has sought a range of soft and hard strategies with which to challenge other nations like India or the United States. So they generally probe for weaknesses. It doesn't mean they want to go to war. They're probing for weaknesses and what can be exploited over time to further China's own interests and take advantage of contractions of US power. Remember, this is a nation that lives the Sun Tzu art of war. So when you look at this, for example, resilience from your collaboration. So we're all social beings. So the human being, all of us individually, we have a need for connecting with others to be able to thrive. So our brain is dedicated. Our neural structures, like a mind map, recognize facial expressions. So these neurons fire within the brain to kind of help us think and emphasize with others, to have thoughts. We're in this together. So we're improving ourselves, we're improving the world. Collaboration is the key. So this is where China comes in again. So China is now looked on as the key nation, I guess, to collaborate with. So whether you're in Africa, you're in Europe, you're in the United States, China is the key. You collaborate with China, you will succeed. This was the mentality that the Americans used to have in the past, that you work with America, you will succeed in the long run. But you look at the next one, for example, support and be supported. So if you can achieve anything meaningful alone, it is crucial for us to build support networks that we can both have a safety net, and that safety net is also for others. So understand that even if you have thousands of people ready to support you, if you don't realize that you have to still work with others, you will not succeed in the long run. You will not feel supported. Okay, so we need to show people that we care, our own people, our own families and other people, and we build them, we empower people through teaching and coaching. We create teams, whether it means working within a family, within a business, or within a nation. So we need to get that right and work together with other people. So we need to look at the right kind of context. So collaboration also means understanding the context of your interaction with others. So for example, when the Chinese One of the things that, again, I have an issue with my Pakistani brothers is they say China, Pakistan are brothers, wonderful, it's lovely, and nothing will happen, nothing will go wrong. That's the wrong way of thinking things. China has its own interests, and the Chinese interests are in Pakistan and how Pakistan can help them reach out to Africa, to the Arab world, and to other countries. Pakistan also needs to now look out for its own interests. It's in a very, very powerful position. China is an ally of Pakistan. It's a friend of Pakistan. But we mustn't always keep thinking that our allies or our friends will always be there for us at all times. We look at, for example, Pakistan's relations with Saudi, very, 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 very close. Now, there have been some issues because of political angles, but this is always happens. It's possibility that similar issues may happen in the future, because when you look at politicians or political leadership within a country, they have different emotions. They work on different emotions, not necessarily facts. The facts are that Chinese interests in Pakistan and Pakistani interests in China are logical, and we need to keep it at that. Of course, there are also emotional connections between people, which is good, but we mustn't let our emotions kind of take charge of our logic in our relationships. So Sun Tzu says, look out for your own interests first. So the trees in the forest move, expect that the enemy is coming. The tall grasses obstruct your view, be suspicious. So what I teach is when everything is going right with you and you're like relaxed, you're kind of calm and you're happy, look for problems, look for potential enemies, either in your head or just outside of you. Do not trust that the enemy will not attack. The enemy that might attack you might come from your own self, might be in your own mind, but it will attack you. So if you look at economic powers with an expanding economic system, that will militarize its power. It will use it. If you look at Britain, for example, the British Empire, the British Empire succeeded financially, economically. In turn, it had a military that expanded its power. The same thing with the United States. And what it's doing now, the more money it's spending, it's militarizing its power, its outreach to the world more and more. At the and you know, within America, they're not taking care of their own country, not taking care of their own people as much as they should. Now, China, it's an expanding economic system. The Chinese military is within the borders of China, but they will have to, it's logical that they will have to have an expanding military complex within China. For example, when you look at the Mughal Empire, the reason the British came into India, at that time, British India with Pakistan, India now, I think it had nearly a quarter of the world's richness, wealth, and it didn't have a solid military system. India at that time, the British, what became British India, did not have a solid military system. It had different systems, different militaries within the different groups. And when the British came in, it was very easy for them to kind of divide and rule, get the different groups to fight, and they ended up taking over India very, very quickly. I think it was just a couple of thousand people. So the British at that time knew what they were doing. But for a country like China, to an extent India and also Pakistan, as its economic system increases, so must its military kind of power to defend your country and also expand your own kind of influence in different countries. So United Kingdom now, for example, has Sandhurst Military Academy. A lot of the people coming into Sandhurst Military Academy are from other countries. In Pakistan, they've got Kakul Military Academy. Quite a few people coming into the Kakul Military Academy. The Pakistan military and people have recognized this are from other countries. So it is a very kind of soft diplomacy from Pakistan's side, and I think Pakistan needs to increase that kind of diplomacy from a military point of view, but also economically. Now, resilience from your health. the foundation, this is the foundation of all of us. So good health means looking after your body whilst you're eating, doing exercise, getting quality sleep, etc., etc. When you're looking at a country needs to be healthy. Okay, we need to have good nutrition for the people. For example, we need to give space to the people so they can develop themselves mentally and physically. Okay, nutrition helps our brain, our health, our mental performance. So for example, those of us who regularly eat a high combination of fats and sugars like ice cream, biscuits, burgers, this kind of reduces the chemicals within our brain that produces more brain cells. This makes the brain less plastic and kind of reduces mental adaptability. So this is where we need to also learn from. Lack of sleep, this is another thing. One of the reasons I practice meditation, and I also teach meditation to people, is because there's a lot of people, not just in the West, everywhere, who have a lack of sleep. And having a lack of sleep results in you making more mistakes. It reduces people's attention span. So when you're on the, for example, on the phone all the time, or on the computer, or on the television, this kind of reduces your attention span to something else, something outside of you. So if you have problems within and you're using something else outside of you to handle those problems will become bigger. This is one of the reasons why there's a lot of people becoming more and more depressed now and more stressed. So sleep makes a big difference. It's not about just about quantity. It's about getting enough quality sleep. So again, seek to meditate. This will have a tremendous positive mental influence on you. Exercise, again, is another good thing. Regular exercise increases mental performance, increases our ability to learn. It protects us from neurodegenerative diseases in the long term. Okay, so Sun Tzu says, be your own friend and also your own enemy. This was another part of another session that I was going to do, but I've kind of stopped on that. And it talks about 5 types of spies. So you've got within you different sides to your personality. And you need to look at yourself as your own best friend and your own worst enemy. When we expand this out within a nation, we need to look for who is helping our nation succeed and protect itself and kind of grow economically, educationally, and who is the enemy, not necessarily physical enemy, but ideas within a culture or a society that are having a negative impact on our nation. So Sun Tzu says...
Just a moment,
Okay.
Abbasi sir, if you can go back to previous slide. I have not been able to understand next one.
This one?
Be your own friend and enemy. Please,
Yes.
explain this. I have not been able to pick it up.
Sure. So being your own friend and your own enemy, it's basically the mind. It's it's mentality. For example, when you're eating healthy, for example, yeah, you're being your own friend. But say, for example, when there's a sweet or a cake or a mithai there, and you might have eat it a bit, and
Okay,
then
got it.
then you might, but if you don't know that, you'll eat more and more.
Yeah. Meaning thereby, this is what Sun Tzu says, but what we say, that we have to suppress our nafs to not to spoil our good deeds. We have to be strict against our that shaitan, nafs, which we say. Here, this is what he means, that you have to be really very strict on your rules and very strict on your parameters that you have laid for your goodness.
Oh, absolutely. And this is also where Allama Iqbal comes in. And when he talks about khudi, the idea of khudi, it's the thing is, we can't actually, by us we are human beings. Allah has created us, and this is something I teach in one of my other classes. And I don't have this kind of like Sufi mentality where we have to kill the nafs. I think we have to discipline the nafs, and by disciplining the nafs, we can be beneficial to other people. By just killing the nafs, that means you're completely detached from everything.
You have to tame your nerves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Absolutely. So,
next.
sure. So Sun Tzu says, don't seek leadership. Okay. Don't seek to be a leader. Be a leader. Okay. So if we are too weak to find it, we must find more men. In this situation, we must not act aggressively. We must unite our forces, expect the enemy, recruit men and wait. We must be cautious about making plans and adjust to the enemy. So whatever the enemy is, we must understand the enemy. We must unite within our own heads. For example, unity, faith, discipline. We must be united. We must have faith within ourselves and our abilities. We need to have discipline before we do anything, before we're adjusting to what the enemy is thinking. So the enemy might even be ourselves again. So the other thing Sun Tzu said, this fact must make a wise leader cautious. A good general is on guard. Your philosophy must be to keep the nation peaceful and the army intact. The thing is, where the United States and China are concerned again, if you look at the United States, I love America, I love Americans, but the thing is, where the United States is concerned, if you look at the past 10, 15, 20, 30 years, how many countries the United States has been at war with, okay? So their leaders are not cautious. Their generals may be on guard, okay? But their philosophy, that their political leadership shows that the nation is not peaceful and the army is not intact. Now, where you look at China, their leaders are cautious, their generals are on guard, and their philosophy is to keep that nation peaceful and their army intact. So you see the Chinese military kind of developing. It's still peaceful, but it's developing their strength. And this is what every country should be doing, not interfering in other countries, rather developing their own country and also their own military. Now, this is my contact details, and I hope you found that helpful.
Wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
Now, Salim Saab, do you want to do a mind map quickly?
I think let's go the way you have planned it. So it's up to you. If you want to now go to the mind map, it's okay. I'm with you.
Okay, fine. So let's do this. Let's do this. What I'm going to do, let me see if I can actually share the screen here, or what I will do. I'm just going to open up something. That's just something else I've done. Let's see how I can do this. It's so how did you find it so far? Any questions on Sun Tzu or resilience?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. What I have understood, if you permit me, I would like to give little comments on this.
Sure.
First of all, let me appreciate your ingenuity of mind of relating Sun Tzu with resilience. It's commendable. You have done a great thing. I mean, this innovation is appreciable. This first thing which I would like to share. Because the way you have related this, I started reading Sun Tzu from 90s,
Okay.
early 90s, mid 90s. Then we, in our military life, spent our complete career following Sun Tzu in one form or the other. And at our military level, at strategy level, at even operational level, at even tactics level, we have been finding insertions from Sun Tzu which would help us think differently. Positive thing is the way you have developed is wonderful. More or less, the theme remains the same. Whether you look through the future through Sun Tzu, or you look through the future through Prophet Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or you look through the future from your Quranic education, or you look through the future from present day conceptual frameworks pouring in from realism, pouring in from any other thought process, but anchoring on one prominent figure like Sun Tzu gives you a lot of strength, That is something which I've liked it. And if you recall, when I had given you a cycle, if I recall, I had given you a cycle, although in that day you were traveling, probably I had to cut short little bit in my presentation, but that cycle I have sent you in part of my presentation. Have you seen that cycle?
Yes. Yeah.
Starting from risk assessment, and then prevention, then mitigation, then preparedness, then early warning, then evacuation, then rescue, then search, then relief, then early recovery, then rehabilitation, then reconstruction, and closing the cycle. If you see even that framework, and you apply all the rules which we have studied from Sun Tzu, the same cycle, each component of it, the 12 I have named, would get magnified under Sun Tzu teaching, applying all these golden rules on each of that band of cycle. Now, this is beautiful. I must appreciate the way you are applying golden principles of Sun Tzu on each and every walk of life which comes across. May that be resilience, may that be disaster management, may that be national security, may that be human security. So that's my comment. It's absolutely wonderful. And as far as mind mapping is concerned, we in Army would do this under another title. What you now call mind mapping, we would do this under a title of brainstorming, and we would name this process, complete process, depending upon the level of technical, operational, or strategic appreciation. Now, in that appreciation, you are taking all the facets into account, and then you are identifying, as you say, keeping the central issue in mind, say resilience, and then from there on, building on different strengths, as you say, in this case would be the 6 domains, and those 6 domains, and then each domain would be carrying so many facets, maybe dozens of facets, and then each domain further carrying further sub facets would be emerging when you proceed one by one from top to down, or for that matter from bottom up. So this is something which I knew this in a different form, but this is a new form which we have given by relating it with Sun Tzu. Thank you very much. Thumb up.
Okay. And what about yourself, Salim Saab? What do you think?
You know, I'm very happy to listen to all these things. MashaAllah, Brigadier Saab, they being a brigadier, went through this very rigorous learning pattern, I must say learning experience of Sun Tzu. I myself started getting to know Sun Tzu by
Mm-hmm.
chance. I was just doing a search,
Mm-hmm.
and now listening to you is a great, helping me to develop insights into this great concept of Sun Tzu. And though I myself very much have got my mindset is very Asian, if I told you that,
Sure.
I cannot even touch a human being, but I think like a martial artist because
No, no,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So my intent is that to bring us on a point where we can convert these mind maps into ontologies. And
sure.
this is where because when I was looking at this very idea of brainstorming, the best brainstorm can be in a form of a mind map, and mind map can be turned into an ontology, and ontology can be turned into a
Mm-hmm.
artifacts, and those artifacts can
Yeah.
tomorrow can become the very part of the semantic web.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that the data, the context, as I introduced this idea of ontology to my friends and myself, is now very much interested trying to work on knowledge-based, web, which is now referred as semantic web. I'm with you, gentlemen. Obviously, it's a bit too much for a civilian like me to listen to so many of those, but I'm happy, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to, because if once we get to know the basics of the mind map, then
Yes.
inshallah, as you said, that it will help us to harmonize the way of thinking with the people, and to think in a more on a more
Mm-hmm.
bigger, better canvas. So yeah, I'm with you.
No, no, absolutely. So what I'll do, I mean, just give you an idea, Salim Saab. So what I can't actually write better on the screen. I mean, when I've got a piece of paper in front of me, I can do it much better. But what it is, the main word, for example, is resilience, and it's got 6 strands. This is self-resilience, and one of
Okay.
the strands is called vision. So
Mm-hmm.
I've made that. So what I'll do, I'll show you how that's done. Maybe what I'll do, I'll send you the notes to the PowerPoint, and let's see if you can actually do this. So if you look at the resilience from vision, so you got vision there, and the 3 points of vision were basically this is the most important domain. It's
Mm-hmm.
about clarity. It's about congruence. Okay, congruence. And what we do then from here is, let's go for that color, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if I go like this, okay, so this is so important. So important, clarity, and congruence. I'm just going to put congruence. I hope you can read that.
Yeah, I can't read that, but I can see. No, the point is the way to start. I think this is good that
Sure.
you start up with the idea, and then you are trying to
Uh-huh.
fine,
So,
fine. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead,
so,
sir.
so like this, for example, now I put an I where the clarity is, and vision. Vision is about clarity. Congruence. Congruence means more like balance. It's a balance. So balance. How do I do this? So I do like that. And you know the scales of justice, for example. So you might have the scales of justice, like that. Yeah. So that's congruence. Clarity is that. Congruence is that. Now, importance. This is very important. So I'm going to make a little book there, for example. Okay. Now, why do I do this? The reason I do this, it's actually a memory jogger. It helps you kind of to remember. So if I were to now cover, or if you were to cover the word important, clarity, and congruence, instead you've got the book there, you've got the I there, and you've got the scales of justice. Yeah, you will know that the book means importance, the I means clarity, the scale of justice means congruence. Now let's stick with clarity, for example. this one here. Yeah? Now, what does the word clarity mean to you, Salim Saab?
Clarity mean my understanding is has no crest and surf. It's clear. It's clear in terms of like I can relate to one of the sayings of the
Go on.
Prophet when he was talking to Ali, and he said, Ali, when you say Iyyaka na'budu, Iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim, so you think in your heart a straightness of an arrow, or you think of a very long road. So I believe that very conceptual imagination is about when you're thinking as straight as an arrow. So
Okay.
clarity is about knowing your way, but you can come across with hurdles and problems and situations, but you never you're clear about your destination. I think that's what clarity is all about.
So basically, what you've got is you've got the straight arrow. It's like vision. It's back to the idea of this kind, vision. Yeah, vision. So focus, your path, path you're going on. Okay, so like that, and then you look at, for example, the straight arrow. Let's just stick with the straight arrow now. Just stick with that. So from clarity, from vision, you got clarity. From clarity, you got straight arrow. Now, when it comes to straight arrow, you mentioned the Prophet. I'm just going to say peace be upon him. Quotes. You should look at the quotations. Yeah. So you remember the quotes because that's what you remember. That's personal to you. What this mind map is about. What other remember when it comes to the word straight arrow?
The target.
Like straight arrow. So the word straight arrow, okay, so resilience means vision. A vision improves your clarity, okay? And clarity gives you a direction, a focus, a path, a straight arrow for you. As you mentioned, the quotation by the Prophet, peace be upon him. So what
Right.
other thing particular to your life where you feel that you the word straight arrow kind of improves on what you might know or where you're heading, or what else does the word straight arrow mean to you?
As I said, that arrow always seeks its target. Like in another situation, the Prophet said that run away from an illiterate like an arrow from a bow. So what I understood from there, that when you understand the jahl and ilm, so ilm is all about clear thinking. It's about, and you always keep on asking, seeking for the one who created you. So you say Iyyaka na'budu, Iyyaka nasta'in. So I think the clarity is all about Ihdinas Siratal Mustaqim, means that there's there's one by one, there's so many things which are all connected together. Like once the Prophet said that you think of like Quran is at the end, and there are temptations on the right and the left, and you are moving on a straight road towards that very target. So that's what clarity I see as, or arrow basically is that arrow which the Prophet basically mentioned, I think.
So say for example, now you've got this now. So it's from vision, clarity, straight arrow. So now that's your kind of mind map just on one section kind of developing. Now, we can talk about the word improvements, or the blue one here, this part, okay? So we're going to go for
Right.
this part. Now, if we look back on the PowerPoint, we've got, let's see, we have composure. Can you see this?
I can just see the lines. I cannot see something.
All right. So let me just open the
I would recommend that
composure.
we should involve Brigadier Saab, because I think Brigadier Saab is like the treasure trove. You know, he has got all those minds in his head, and once when it comes to, if we are successful with this idea of learning the
Yes.
mind map, I think the most important mind map will be of the Brigadier Saab, because mashallah,
100%.
yeah.
I was talking to him actually earlier before coming on before he came online, and he is a wealth of information actually, and it's something that this is where again I keep saying to especially my Pakistani brothers and sisters, is there's so much knowledge within Pakistan other countries can learn from. And I think the work you're doing on resilience just in Pakistan, they can actually expand. Actually, Brigadier Saab, I'm just like giving some ideas about mind mapping to Salim Saab.
I wonder, this wonderful, I have picked it up. I picked it up, because if we just see Abbasi Saab, the six trends which you have just given, say one you have given vision, second you have given composure, third say you gave proactive thinking, fourth you gave as collaboration, fifth you gave as socialization, sixth you gave as balance. So I'm just giving you those six trends. Those six trends which would come from here, then each strand would be further developed down to its lowest possible level.
Absolutely.
So that is what the mind map I have understood. Now what would happen, that the linkages, first you would try to grow a tree from each stem, and then it would have so many branches, and at the end you would then start establishing relationship and linkages between each stem, and then further when we would go, we would start creating linkages between the branches, between the further branch. So that's what I beautiful. That's what I've understood. That this is something that from this mind map, now I would have to keep resilience in mind. And while keeping resilience in mind, just giving you an example, as I had given you in the beginning, I say, first I have to say, define resilience in a customized manner with all its modules. Customized manner means I shall be defining resilience with respect to Pakistan.
Absolutely. Okay.
Then I shall be defining resilience in Pakistan with respect to its different components. The politics of Pakistan, the ideology of Pakistan, the sociology of Pakistan, the economy of Pakistan, the diplomacy of Pakistan, the culture of Pakistan, likewise space ventures of Pakistan. Now when I would be relating each component of resilience with my own component, then the mind map which would emerge would be useful for my people.
Fantastic.
So
I'm just going to show you.
That's what I have picked up from your talk.
No, 100%. I'm going to just show you a little mind map that someone put online. This is a mind map that was created actually on a computer. It's a much more interesting mind map. Let me just see if I can actually open this. Where is it? Share screen. How do I share this? Here we go. Let's see. So share this. And I don't know if you can see this. Can you see
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah. So basically, if I extend it, this just gives you an idea. For example, you've got Pakistan there, etc. So you've got the country right in the middle. Then you've got. Let me see if I can annotate this. Where is it? So you've got that and that. So if you look at, for example, Sindh here, okay, right? It's got now links to the different cities in Sindh. You got Punjab here. Punjab was my favorite city. I think it's here. So this city, so it's kind of like expands on that. This is just about the, let's see if I can quickly clear that, clear the drawings. And if you look at how this is done, this is just a basic mind map. And this is by, I think, a gentleman from Poland who did this. I'm trying to find out if I can find that.
No, Abbasi sir.
Yeah.
Now, since you are sharing a very beautiful thinking process, if you can go back to this diagram, I would just give you my understanding. Here, say you have outlined in mind map, you would have to outline its strand, its feature.
Yes.
So if I have to talk of geographical or administrative layout of Pakistan, say mind map of geographical layout of Pakistan. So I have now customized it. I have now specified it. Now, when I would say geographical layout of Pakistan, then it would have a different features. When I would say mind map of cultural dynamics of Pakistan,
Okay.
it would have a different feature.
Yes.
Then I have mind map of ethnicity in Pakistan. It would have a different feature. When I say mind map of tourism in Pakistan, it would have a different feature. So, in fact, it is customized thinking process for each and every facet of a bigger problem, and then you identify all those salients of that very aspect and dwell on further to its minutest and the lowest tier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what we can do, I mean, if you want, if some more of your colleagues want to even have like a workshop, we can have a workshop on mind mapping, or this, as you said, creative creative drawing, and we can start building things, because it's a very, very easy way. Actually, if you sit down with a piece of paper and you start kind of drawing and linking the different areas, and there's so much you can actually learn. And again, this is what Sun Tzu, I guess, teaches, looking at from other perspectives, other areas where you haven't thought of. But anyway, I'm glad
So
you
can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
You know, I have got, I don't want to say that I've got some, how should I say that?
You can say it, don't worry.
I don't know. I don't want to say it as an hidden agenda, but you know, I being the person who works in information technology,
Okay.
I'm basically looking at the treasure trove of the internet, because the data there doesn't have the semantic form of data anymore at this moment. But you know, the person who invented the internet, his vision was, or his vision is, to convert that into kind of a semantic web. And this is where that French guy, which I'm, you know, trying to work with, as I told you, I know him, he doesn't know me. I'm basically trying to work on this very idea of cognition, which is the economic information, you know, meta language, IEML, information economic meta language. So I think, because I think we will be able to put this genie into this bottle of this entire world, understanding, comprehension of, what do you call it, the shared intelligence, and looking from the same as people see things. You know, shared intelligence is something from the point of cognition, from the way human understand as the human capital. You remember that picture which I shared with you some time ago.
Absolutely.
So my really, I believe that this is and with the gregarious kind of intellect we have,
Uh-huh.
and somebody who like me who is not as qualified as you gentlemen are. But my intent is that when I was young, I always wanted to see that how I can relate myself to the existing world, because and my religion, my ways, my values are being either used to, there's a disinformation about us, or there's a kind of, hatred towards our kind, in the
Mhm.
form of whatever. So I always wanted to find out the way that how I can place myself in this very world where there is a lot of mahmasa, as we say in Arabic, there's a lot of confusion had been created. So the way I see it, I will just correlate quickly with one of the it's not a joke, but it's just to express the idea. There
Mhm.
was a guy, he used to teach everybody how to pray. So one of the guy, he couldn't learn how to pray. So he got angry. He said, "I even have taught animals how to pray, but how come this guy is not learning?" So he did some survey,
Uh-huh.
and the guy said, he was a driver. So the next day he came and he said, start doing clutch, brake, clutch, brake. I believe
Mhm.
that if we will not speak the language of um, of human intuition, which is I don't know. I should say the word that you can teach intuition. Intuition is from Allah Kareem Subhanahu wa Taala.
Mhm.
But when it comes to Qal and Sadida, when it comes to straight thing, when it comes to truthfulness, when it comes to, as we say, that the two things are the real truth of the real knowledge is Quran and Sunnah.
Mhm.
So as just I think a minute back, Brigadier Saab said that even it is Sun Tzu or it is Quran or it is Hadith, all of them emerge, rather converge into one point, and that is the truthfulness. And the only thing is that we all, like for example in Quran, we say that if you do something, you will only do it to save your own self. So it's all about saving your own nafs from the problem.
Mhm.
So as you said, that you can be your enemy or you can be your friend. So
Mhm.
I really, okay, let me conclude it. I hope I don't sound too but what I'm trying to say is that we should be able to see things from the point of the from the from the data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, and
Mhm.
that can only be contained within the model of the human capital cognition. How we now in a virtual world where I'm sitting in a different part of the world, you're sitting somewhere else, and now with COVID, world has turned into virtual and actual.
Yes. Yeah.
So how we can make those things converge is something which obviously I would request that if I can get an opportunity to talk about ontology. And though I'm not an expert in ontology, I myself I'm excited with this very idea.
Mhm.
If you run a search on Quran ontology,
Mhm.
you must have seen that the gentleman has done it. So
Mhm.
I will try to stop here, and I would say that all our ideas should be around the very idea of facts. The facts which are available on the internet in the form of data, and if they are not there, we should bring them. So in form of ontologies, in form of Wikipedia, in form of, semantic, where everything should make sense. So when we talk about resilience of a human,
Yes. Yeah.
that is only not his resilience. He can be resilient, but if the society doesn't treat him right, so if
Mhm.
he doesn't get the opportunity window to do something of a value, so what's about his resilience? He is a human being. He can just, can sustain to a level where after that he needs the system to support him. So
Yeah.
yeah, please go
I
ahead.
mean,
Thank
no,
you.
this is, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Abbasi sir,
Yeah.
can we now, just being little, because I have to attend another session,
Sure.
uh,
Sure.
I have to leave. Can we set time? This ontology business is not known to me. Do you have some expertise in this?
Ontology business, I actually heard it from Salim Saab. I am actually studying some of it now.
Okay, because Salim Saab is also in the process of picking up, because he had been using this terminology time and again, but somehow I have not been able to understand what
No,
ontology means.
no,
If
Brigadier
someone
Saab,
can put us right, if
sure.
Salim Saab can prepare a little lecture a presentation, a PowerPoint, and we can again get together and get benefited from him.
Ontology.
Can we set the time?
Of course, I'd be happy to. But ontology, what I've actually found, ontology, it's basically it's the study of existence, ourselves as human beings, and it's a study of how we kind of determine if things exist or not. It's a classification, I guess, of existence. So it attempts to take things that are kind of abstract and establish that they are in fact real. So it's basically about humanity.
This much seems to have told. Seems, will you be able to please prepare a PowerPoint and give us a half an hour, 45-minute session?
Salim Saab, do you want to do that? Salim Saab, hello. I think he's probably having his chai.
No, I think the system must be off. Sir, I am thankful to you, but we need to get together. I would coordinate with Salim Saab and we would arrange what he says, what he is trying to really say in ontology. I do not have any idea. But one thing which I would like to dwell on from here is that we, again, you and me probably are 1-2 more persons who know the subject. I would get down to and bring them in. We shall build on the conceptual framework of resilience through mind mapping.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic.
I am little occupied with my thesis, PhD thesis that has been reviewed and returned to me. I'm little occupied, but I would like to really dwell on this, each component which I have mentioned in a little more intuitive way of getting into deeper. We will coordinate, inshallah, next session. We don't tie up now. We'll coordinate next session.
Fantastic. It's great connecting with you and chatting to you about mind maps.
Thank
Sun Tzu,
you very much.
especially.
I am today enlightened.
I look forward to being enlightened by yourself and Salim Saab as well.
Thank you, dear. Very kind.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.